Assalamualaikum. My name is Nurawati binti Ahmad and my matric number is 079124. Now, I'm going to discuss on the case of Lei Meng and our Inspector Wayandiana and others and other appeal. This case concerns 6 individuals detained under the Prevention of Crime Ordinance 1959 for alleged involvement in online gambling. They appeal against the High Court refusal to issue writ of the habeas corpus, arguing their detention was unlawful. The appellant raised 3 key illegal arguments. However, I'm going to discuss on the legal argument that involve the Article 5 Clause 2 Federal Constitution, that is, detaining authority failed to ensure the legality of detention at the time of the habeas corpus applications. Previous court rulings set important guidelines. In the case Muhammad Azam and Ketua Polis Negara confirmed that detention legality remained relevant even after the release. Teresa Lim Chin Chin ruled that detention legality must be assessed from the date of the habeas corpus application. Zandika Napia reaffirmed this principle to uphold the constitutional safeguard. The federal court found that detention order is unlawful, confirming judicial review must focus on the legality of detention at the time of filing. This ruling reinforced constitutional protection under Article 5 Clause 2 Federal Constitution, ensuring detainee right and upheld the preventing misuse of detention power.
Hi, my name is Christina. In the case of Jaya Ganesan Ramakrishnan and Timbalan Menteri Dalam Negeri, the appellant challenged his detention under Section 6, Clause 1 of the Dangerous Drug Act 1985 through a habeas corpus application, and he claimed that it was unlawful. He was arrested for alleged drug trafficking, but the authorities failed to serve him the notice for his representation hearing before the advisory board in time. The hearing was scheduled for 7 June 2017, yet he only received notice months later, violating Rule 5 Clause 1 of the Advisory Board Procedure Rules 1987. Furthermore, the investigating officer failed to provide a copy of his recorded conversation, breaching Article 151 Clause 1 Clause A of the Federal Constitution, which guarantees a detainee's right to know the grounds of detention and make representations. The court relied on key precedents, emphasizing that habeas corpus is a right, not a privilege, and any procedural non-compliance renders detention unlawful. The court found the explanations for the delay unconvincing and ruled in favor of the appellant, issuing a writ of habeas corpus and declaring the detention unlawful.
Assalamualaikum and good day everyone. My name is Nur Wafa Husna binti Muhammad Faisal. So today I will present to you the case of Ho Kim Long against Ketua Polis Negara Malaysia. Let's begin with the fact of this case. In this case, Ho Kim Long, which the applicant, surrendered himself to the police after learning that suspected involvement in an organised crime syndicate. Following his surrender, he was detained and moved between several police jurisdictions. A magistrate refused the police application to extend his remand. However, Ho Kim Long continued to be detained without any valid remand order. It was only 28 July that a remand order under POCA was obtained. Before that, there was no legal basis for his detention, in breach of his constitutional rights under Article 5 of the Federal Constitution. In this case, the applicant argument were based on provision of the Article 5 of the Federal Constitution. So, since the remand order under POCA only began on 28 July, the applicant argued that his detention between 22 and 27 July was unconstitutional and unlawful. Next, according to analysis and finding by this court, while Article 5 of the Federal Constitution guarantees fundamental liberties, POCA is a special law enacted under Article 149 of the Constitution. Article 149 allows Parliament to pass law to deal with threats to public order and national security, even if such laws are inconsistent with fundamental liberty. As long as the detention was carried out in accordance with POCA procedure, it is considered lawful. Not just that, the court also relied on 2 case precedent. In the case of Muhammad Faisal Haris against Timbalan Menteri Dalam Negeri, it was emphasized that in habeas corpus proceeding, the focus is on the current detention order. So, any illegal detention before the POCA remand are not relevant if a valid detention order is now in place. Thus, in this case, the High Court dismissed his application. Therefore, the applicant was lawfully detained under POCA, and therefore, the habeas corpus application could not succeed in this case. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fatina Nabila. So I'll be discussing the case of Zaidi bin Kanapiah against ASP Khairul Fairuz bin Rozwan and other cases. Ask about the fact of this case. So Zaidi bin Kanapiah and two police officers were first detained by MACC for online gambling investigation. So after the release, they were re-arrested under POCA for allegedly promoting unlawful gaming. So a magistrate issued a 21-day remand under Section 4.1 of POCA, followed by a second 38-day remand under Section 4.2. So the appellant filed the habeas corpus application arguing the detention were unlawful, mala fide, and that Section 4 of POCA was unconstitutional. So the High Court dismissed the application, but on appeal, the Federal Court ruled the appeal were not academic, found the remand order flawed due to the lack of judicial discretion, though upheld the constitutionality of Section 4 of POCA. This issue is regarding to the judicial power and separation of power under Article 121 of the Federal Constitution. So the issue that has been discussed under this is Section 4 of POCA compels magistrate to remand without discretion, and this has been violating the Article 121 of the Federal Constitution. And they also argued that this has stripped the judicial power and making magistrate tool of the executive. Go to the second issue is regarding the preventive law scope under the Article 1411A under the Federal Constitution. So the issue is unlawful gaming under POCA is valid under this article. An argument, there has also been argued that gambling is an organized violence and POCA is misapplied. The constitutional issue is personal liberty and habeas corpus under the Article 5 of the Federal Constitution. So the issue in here is detention under POCA is violating the Article 5.1 and 5.2. And they also argued that detention order can be used to sidestep the habeas corpus. The final judgment of this case, it has been mentioned that POCA is a legislation authorized by Article 149 of the Federal Constitution, and that being said that the argument by the appellant, which mentioned that Section 4 of POCA is invalid and unconstitutional, are clearly untenable, and the provision of the POCA violating the Article 121 of the Federal Constitution. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
My name is Muhammad Akid bin Zulkifli. So the next case we're going to research is Tanah Silan Nakatiran versus Public Prosecutor and others. So the matter of fact is Tanah Silan was arrested and detained under the Emergency Ordinance 1969, a preventive detention law. He challenged his detention via habeas corpus and it was unlawful because two grounds. First is he wasn't promptly informed of the arrest grounds, and second is there was an unjustified delay in serving the detention order, denying him a chance to challenge it. The government defend the delay and citing administrative and investigative necessities. Next is legal issue. There are three main legal issues. First, which is, was the detention is lawful? Next is whether the failure to promptly inform Tanah Silan violates Article 5 Clause 2 of the Federal Constitution. And the third issue is, did the delay render the detention unlawful?
Assalamualaikum, I'm Luqman Bayhaqi and I am going to talk about the issues concerning constitutional law of this case, the final judgment and also the ratio decidendi of the case. In this case, Tanah Silan argued that his detention breached Article 5 of the Federal Constitution, which protects personal liberty. Under Article 5 subsection 1, he said that the detention wasn't in accordance with the law. Most importantly, under Article 5 subsection 2, the delay in informing him of the arrest reasons violated his rights to be told promptly and to consult a lawyer. Although he also cited Article 5 subsection 3 and 4 about being brought before a magistrate, those were less central because these constitutional rights were not upheld. He applied for habeas corpus to challenge the detention. Next, the ratio decidendi of the case. The court held that Section 5 subsection 5 of SOSMA is not unconstitutional. Although it allows detention without a magistrate's order, this was seen as executive, not judicial power, which is valid under Article 149. The judiciary's power wasn't removed, as judicial reviews and habeas corpus are still available, so there was no breach of the separation of powers. And finally, in the final judgment, the court allowed the habeas corpus application and ordered Tanah Silan's release. The key issue was a breach of Article 5 subsection 2 of the Federal Constitution. The authorities had failed to inform his promptly of the grounds of arrest. Although SOSMA allows extended detention under Article 149, it does not override these constitutional rights. The court held that this procedural failure made the detention unlawful, justifying his immediate release.